Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unboxed. Today we're going to continue unboxing the Black family, and we're going to specifically talk about coping with racism in America. Stick around.
I'm Dr. Robert Davis, family life educator and relationship coach, and welcome to Unboxed, a frank and straightforward conversation about relationships. We're going to talk about family, church, workplace, and all other types of relationships. Join me for the next few moments as we unbox the power and potential of relationships and help you to live your best life.
Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Robert Davis. I want to welcome you to Unbox. So glad that you chose to join us today. Please make sure as we get started together that you like, subscribe, and share. That's right. Like, subscribe, and share. Okay, so we've been talking about building the Black family, and we've been talking specifically about building the Black child. But today we're going to make somewhat of a transition. So we're going to talk about building the Black family as a whole and the community as a whole. So stick with us on this journey. Now, one of the things that we've had to do in this process is to really identify how slavery and the various iterations of racism throughout America's history has impacted the African-American family, the Black family. And so today I'm going to read a couple of things to you from my two favorite books that I've been sharing a lot out of with you. They Stole It, But You Must Return It by Richard Williams. And the second one is Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome by Dr. Joy DeGruy. Okay, so I want to share a couple of things with you, and then I'm going to talk about how we get on this process, how we begin this process of actually functioning as healthy, mature people. All right, so stick around. Let's talk about that. The slavery experience, and I'm reading down from the book They Stole It, But You Must Return It by Dr. Richard Williams. The slavery experience for Blacks in America was very stressful. Some writers have tried to say things were not as bad, were not that bad for all slaves. Not so. Granted that every Black may not have personally experienced savage beatings, killings, or rapes perpetuated by the slave owner in white America. Yet all slaves, and this is important to understand, all slaves knew about these cruel acts. They all witnessed some of these cruel acts, and they all knew, here it is, listen, don't miss this, they all knew that these terrible acts could happen to any of them at any time as well. They also knew very well that the laws of the United States would not protect the Black slave from such inhumane treatment. Therefore, all slaves were mentally, socially, and psychologically affected by these acts, which is very similar to what is going on in the news today. Yes, not all Black men who interact with the police are being killed, but we know as a Black man that at any time we can be killed and the officer would not be prosecuted. That is just a reality that Blacks live with today. Same thing. Not all Black women during slavery were raped. Not all Black men were abused. Not all Black children were sold from their family. But they knew it could happen at any time and that there was no protection if it should happen. Therefore, all slaves were socially and psychologically affected by these acts. Forced to endure the severely stressful situation of America's slave system, the Black slave had to find ways in which to cope, That's what Dr. Richard Williamson says. Now, I'm going to read from Dr. Joy DeGruy. She says, African Americans suffer from all of the social ills that plague society at large. We know that. Drug addiction, crime, and moral decay, to name a few. It would be foolish to argue that every maladaptive manifestation of these ills is a result of post-traumatic slave syndrome. Correct. Still, it would serve us well to understand to what degree these and other problems of today directly relate to the slave and post-slave experience of yesterday. Put another way, what adaptive behaviors, listen closely, what adaptive behaviors have we taken on that have led to harmful habits as a Black community? Habits we are capable of replacing with healthier ones. Some of the things that have come to be associated with Black culture are negative, demeaning, and harmful, such as public displays of verbal or physical aggression at parties or various other gatherings, eating food that is high in salt and fat, and adding sugar to nearly everything. These and many other behaviors have come to be expected, accepted, and I want to add, even applauded. African Americans have unwittingly adopted habits and traditions that influence how we think, what we eat, what we believe about health and healthcare, how we manage interpersonal conflict, and even how we behave sexually. Again, that was Dr. Joy DeGruy, post-traumatic slave syndrome. So I want to start off by saying this. We're not going to play the blame game. I'm wearing a t-shirt today that comes from my alma mater, Oakwood University. It's an HBCU in Huntsville, Alabama, historically Black college and university in Huntsville, Alabama. And the shirt says, I don't know how well you can see it. It just says, male by birth, man by choice. Male by birth, man by choice. So I want to talk about how important it is as African Americans for us to take control of our own destiny and to make great choices. So we're not here to play the blame game. That's an issue. The blame game is an issue that is to be addressed in the legal setting. One of the reasons that I am so much for reparations is because I am for accountability. I believe that Blacks have to take ownership of their own actions. And I believe that America has to take ownership of its actions and to compensate the African American community for all of the evils that it has done for the last 500 years. I believe that African Americans have to take ownership and say, you know what? We did suffer these atrocities. We were victimized. We were brutalized, but we have a responsibility to take responsibility. We have a responsibility to take responsibility for our choices and our future and our destiny. We cannot wait for some magic white man somewhere to save us. We are responsible for saving ourselves. So I believe in personal accountability, which is one of the reasons why I am so much in favor of reparations. But the financial part, the legal part has to be handled by the courts. What I'm dealing with now is the psychological part. Are you with me now? So we're not going to sit here and play the blame game relative to the psychological parts. We're going to be aware, and then we're going to take accountability. Those two A's. We're going to be aware and then take accountability. We're going to be aware and then take accountability. So the reality is that in the history of America, this is talking about the awareness. In the history of America, and all I'm going to do today is awareness. In the history of America, African Americans were exposed to and experienced atrocities, either directly or through connected, shared experience. In other words, we knew about others who were going through this. And so that powerlessness has tremendously impacted the way that we function in relationships and the way that we function psychologically. You see, the reality is each one of us are pre-programmed. That's something that you hear me say an awful lot and something that we talk a lot about with UnBoxed. Each of us are pre-programmed. We are pre-programmed mentally. Our emotional and relationship functioning is passed down from generation to generation. We are pre-programmed. Some refer to this as the generational transmission process. And who we are is passed down psychologically and emotionally, and it is also passed down genetically. So it's passed down psychologically, it's passed down emotionally, it's passed down genetically. And so some of the diseases that we are predisposed to is because things were passed down to us genetically. Now, here's the $1 million question. How did slavery and American systemic racism affect how our computers were pre-programmed? And that's what Dr. DeGruy tries to get at in her book, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, and we have talked somewhat about that. But what I want us to begin to think about is not just the awareness. Awareness is awesome, but we also have to think about accountability and saying, all right, you know what, from here on out, I'm going to take accountability. So we're going to spend some time dealing with both awareness and then accountability, how we counteract those negative things and develop strong, positive, healthy relationships and healthy communities. I want to thank you for joining in today. We're going to pick this back up tomorrow. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. That's right, like, subscribe, and share. And until then, have a wonderful evening.
Seasoned with Grace, UnBoxed also provides healthy relationship training and leadership development for businesses, churches, and community organizations. For a free consultation to discuss your team's needs, please contact us at our website at swg-unboxed.org. That's swg-unboxed.org. unboxed.org.